Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Joined by Coach Holt after a successful night, 2 games in a row. Home sweet home. And then also it's the Rockies, which the Rockies, hey, you say it all the time, Coach, but they have major league players, but it is the Rockies, and it has been a successful 2 days, correct?
There's no doubt about it. They're a major league team. They got major league players. That's a funny thing about them. And you go down through history, back in the days of the Royals, we see the Royals around here because geographically where we located. But a lot of people didn't know who those guys were. Same way here, because you don't see these guys very much. But it's been in the Dodgers case, they just need to play. They need to win. This is Major League Baseball. Like you said, everybody's got a Major League player. We don't know I don't know who these kids are. They may be future All-Stars right here for all I know. I mean, a few of them. Stallings has been around. Some of those guys you've seen that have been around, but, kids started last night. They had a good arm, good pitch, and they just kind of after the first 2, I was like, "Wow, it's going to be a tough one." Then Dodgers got 2, but no, it's very successful 2 nights. The first 2 nights of the Rocky series, and just what the doc ordered.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Yes,
and figuratively. So the offense, what's your take of the offense? I've said it. I've been saying it since day one. Just doesn't feel like the offense is clicking. Am I being too hard on them?
No, I don't think so. And then we just try to speak the truth here, Case. As we was talking off air before, we're fans. We're baseball coaches by trade, school teachers, however you want to go there, high school level. We love baseball, love the Dodgers, but I don't think that's too harsh. Jessica Mendoza even mentioned on the broadcast last night something we've all been saying, and it is pretty obvious that the bottom of the order we got to get started getting some out of the bottom of the order.
2 for 8 last night. It was better.
Yeah, it was better. Taylor had a couple hit the double play, but he had a nice solid hit driving a run later, and he's solid in the outfield. He does a good job center field. So, there's that trade-off there. You got better defensively, but, he had a big hit. Good for him. He hadn't been playing a whole lot. I know that was just his 9th game, and, so good for him. He got there and produced a little bit. Yeah, 2 for 8 is much better than what we've been seeing. I think the night before I looked down there, 170, 130, munching those guys, and just like, something's got to change there, and I feel confident that it will somehow, or the Dodgers will come up with something that can't continue all year long. I mean, it can. I'm not saying it can. Hell, it can.
Yeah.
I'm not in charge of anything. Hell, it can.
Yeah, sure.
And we're sitting here pissed and moaning all year trying to win, but we're obviously it looks like we're in the toughest division in baseball again. And, it's just going to be night in, night out and grind. But, no, they've got to get going. I don't think there's any doubt about it from top to bottom. Freddie's fighting some injuries. He's coming back. He's still, he got a hit last night or a couple of hits last night. And Will started as like he was last year. Will is solid. He's the steady in our offense right now. That's the thing about it. He's been pretty solid all year long. Shohei, he's the greatest player on the face of the earth at this moment. Even when he's not at his best, he's still pretty damn good. Same way with Mookie. So I feel like we get it going. We've got. I don't say we've got plenty of time. I don't want to get into that stuff. That's not how we roll because baseball's a daily game, and you want to perform daily. But no, you're not being too harsh because you're not saying it in a harsh way. You're saying stuff that everybody kind of feels and loving the Dodgers and wanting them to be successful. I think there's no doubt about that.
So when you talk about the bottom of the order last night, again, 2 for 8 yesterday, last night, that's a lot better. But we've seen games to where it hasn't been the case as far as that goes. So that just puts a ton of pressure on like the first 4 or 5 hitters. You're talking about Shohei Ohtani, who went 0 for 4 again last night. He was 0 for 5 the other day, and that sandwiched a really nice game in between where he had the home run and he had the single that. I still don't know how he hit that first single the other night, 102 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With 2 strikes, and he's on his front foot and just buggy whipping the barrel. 102, it's like that's maybe one of the most impressive things he's done of all those things. So here's the deal. Here's kind of what I'm saying. So if the bottom lineup is going to be just kind of the bottom lineup we've seen, that puts a ton of pressure on your top, say, 4 or 5 hitters. And so that means a guy like Will Smith or Teo Hernandez almost becomes the MVP of the team.
Yeah.
Because on the 1 or 2 innings a night that you actually put a rally together, which is kind of what we're seeing right now, 1, maybe 2 innings a night, and then maybe like a home run in another inning somewhere. That means that in those innings, you have to finish them off with like 3 or 4. If then that inning, like Will Smith comes up with 2 outs and 2 on, and you've only scored up 1 run, and he doesn't get a hit, or Teo Hernandez, and you end up with 1 run in that inning, you lose the game. So really it means that the back half of the middle of the order has to come through in those innings where you're scoring.
I felt, that last night, we had bases loaded, nobody out. We only got 1 run out of the deal.
Yes.
We was at the bottom of the order on that. Taylor hits in a double play is the only run we got there. And, Paez hit a ball pretty deep to left, but it's a fly out, so
yes.
The inning's over right there. But, there's no doubt about it. The pressure's going, I'm not going to go back to next year. We all know how wonderful it was. But, the Dodgers' success, the bottom of the order was big time, in the playoffs. They came up big, kept rallies going, got Shohei up at the runner's on. It was a total team deal. Every night, there wasn't something, oh, man, that's killing us right there. When they got the playoffs, you had that consistency, that your studs are at the top. We get it. Everybody does the same damn thing. They got their studs at the top. But the other guys were setting the table and getting some big key hits for us. So that's something that's got to start up. Like you said, Teo and them and Will are going to have to end up being the catch because, if that continues down there, Shohei's coming up and nobody on base, and they can just throw him a bunch of crap up there, spinners, and give him nothing to hit, which you'll probably see. But I think we know we hadn't seen, Mookie's not where Mookie normally will be. Freddie's obviously not where he's going to be. They're elite Hall of Fame baseball players.
Right.
I have no doubt where they're going to be when you need them. They're just getting it around themselves into shape and stuff. And Shohei's just a chance of going 5 for 5 every night or 0 for 5.
Yeah.
So, but he's that great a player. On his bad days, he can still get, as you mentioned, single the other night. On his bad days, he looks good. So, no, that's a great point. We need Teo to be his way, and Will. Again, we get back to the same thing. I don't want to predict anything. I'm not that damn smart, never have been. But we know Will's going to get wore down a little bit. Being a catcher, it happens to every catcher.
That's kind of what I'm saying. What happens when Will gets worn down and he doesn't hit the home runs and have the nights he's had the last 2 nights? Now where are the Dodgers?
Yeah,
if Will Smith wasn't hitting right now, where would the Dodgers be?
Exactly. And we talked about last year, Case.
Yeah.
Gavin Lux might have been our MVP after the All-Star break because we were in dire straits. Gavin's hitting 3-hole for us for a while. And this was a race the entire year last year.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything easy about last year. That's the beautiful part about it.
I agree.
The Dodgers, it was a grind from day one.
It hadn't been easy this year either.
No, it's not going to be. Our division is crazy, and it's Major League Baseball. It's nothing easy this year is going to happen. So Gavin, as you mentioned a while ago about the other 2 guys a while ago, he might have been our MVP at one point. We were stinking pretty bad, had some injuries. When Mookie was out, and Gavin goes from hitting 1-something. We're like, well, hell, we're going to send this guy to Oklahoma City, or what ends up being our damn 3-hole.
And we were right, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. End up hitting our 3-hole and producing. He had a great second half of the year. That was a big key for the Dodgers. I don't want to throw shade on that because that was a big key for the Dodgers last year. The year Lux had in the second half. So I feel confident we have that type. I don't know who it's going to be, which one of those guys. We need Muncy to come on. He's a run producer. We need him to be that again. Yes. We need him to continue to be that. But we've got to get something going out of, the Paez, position there, whatever we got going there, but I don't know. Something's got to change there, and I feel confident that Robertson, they'll figure something out.
They'll figure it out. Yeah.
The one way or another, I don't know.
They'll make it league average somehow.
Somehow or another, they'll make it league average. I don't know if they'll do something at the trade deadline, and one of our buddies asked when the Dodgers going to get everybody, and I said if we can, or like another friend of mine said, hey. Are you guys going to sign everybody in Rex? My brother said, just the good ones. That's kind of, I'm sitting there still thinking we'd get some other guys, but it didn't happen. So we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, kind of one of those conundrums as far as a fan goes.
Yes.
Chris Taylor puts the ball in play, of which that's not something he always does. And then a run scores, which I'm thinking, okay, great. I always like to scratch a run, especially if you can take a player like Chris Taylor, who's one of the players you don't rely on necessarily to win games offensively with, and you can take that part of the lineup and score a run with it, man, that's like a bonus because then you still have all your guys that are supposed to drive in the runs that haven't done it yet. So you're playing the odds at that point. But then it's a double play, so I'm like, well, it's cool that Chris Taylor didn't strike out. It's cool he put it in play. It's cool that he got you don't get an RBI whenever you ground a double play, but it's cool that a run scored off of it, but then not cool that it's a double play. I'm still kind of debating in my own brain whether that was actually like a good at bat by Chris Taylor or not.
And I'm sitting there being, as coaches, Coach Barikoff can verify this. By nature, we're negative, So I'm sitting there, I'm same thing as you are. I'm sitting there going, then I said, okay, I'm going to think about this positive. At least he didn't strike out or hit a pop up. At least we got a damn run out of the deal. So I started getting back to Mr. Positivity again. Get down to my coach mode, pissed off because we hit a double play. And I'm not cute. It's great to get a run right there, but then the fact we got one run out of a bases loaded, nobody out. I was like, but it's better than nothing. So,
yeah, and the kind of where I defaulted to after I got over the fact there's bases loaded, nobody out, and we now had 2 outs and a runner at third, and still needed a base hit from a guy that's hitting at the time was hitting about 120, and Andy Paez. My default was, well, if he strikes out there, then Andy Paez hits in a double play. We score 0. And so at least we got 1 run out of the bottom of our lineup. That's kind of, I think, where my brain ended up on that one. So,
yes, I agree.
What did you think about Landon Knack last night? I mean, there was nothing about it that was super impressive. There was nothing about it that you went, oh, wow, man, that guy right there, he's climbing. He's wanting to be in the everyday rotation. But I'll say this. I kind of used the Landon Knack thing like I used the Austin Barnes thing. And when we always talk about Austin Barnes, Coach, you're great about this. It's always, you have to compare him to the other backup catchers. Yes. Don't compare him to Will Smith or JT Realmuto. He's not a starting catcher. Compare him to Austin Wynns and whoever the backup catcher is for the Rockies. Compare him to backup catchers. So when you're evaluating Landon Knack's performance, don't evaluate him based on, well, is he a number 1 starter?
Right.
Or is he going to be? Evaluate him on, would you take that start as a spot 5th starter start every time he gave it to you? I think you would have to squarely say yes. He put his team in a position to win.
And he's done that in the past. Like I said, we use the term down staff case. It's the same thing we were just talking about. Where he's for a down staff, for a start, he gave you everything you wanted right there. I think he gave him just the 2 runs, 4 innings? I think about 4 hits.
The double with 2 outs. Oh, man, he was so close to getting out of that.
But a chance to get out of it. But we've seen that from Landon. He's been a good down staff guy, I'll call it. But,
yes.
In the past, last year, he had some big outings for us in the playoffs and down the latter part of the year when the pennant race was going on. So, no, I agree with you on that. For a spot starter, 5th starter, that was a good start. I mean, he got you into the 5th inning, and the bullpen took over from there. So I thought he was pretty solid, for him.
Yeah, the catcher, I can't remember his name, but he was hitting 091. So he got the pop up to Veen, and you're thinking, okay, well, there's 2 outs, and we're getting ready to get out of this, and then you got a hitter coming up at 091, and bam. I mean, it's my first thing that popped in my brain was, well, first of all, I know Landon Knack so well. I'm like, oh, he's going to be so pissed about that. I mean, he is going to be so pissed about giving up that double to anybody. But then to know you're at the 9 hole, you're at an 091 hitter, and you're that close to getting out of it. And then I kind of got into the first thing went to my brain was what you always say, your best laid plans never seem to work out. So it's like you had everything set up ready for you, and that's when baseball seems to just kind of throw you a curveball.
Yeah, you'd love to see him get through the 5th and get a win out of the deal. And that's kind of where I know you're feeling the same way I was. So hated seeing him not get out of the 5th inning.
Yeah. So Chris Taylor, not only did we're kind of bouncing around here, but that's okay.
Sure.
So we talked about his double play ball, but then he got a hit later. He had the really nice catch.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, if you get that version of Chris Taylor every single night, right? I mean, a guy that drives and runs, a guy that's put, of course, he did strike out on the slider on the outer half, but sometimes you got to give the pitcher credit. That slider/cutter that he swung through for strike 3 was a pretty darn good pitch. But if you get that Chris Taylor every night, this Dodgers team has another guy in the margins that could help. So I was encouraged by Chris Taylor.
I was too, Case. To be honest, like I said, I feel better in center field. I don't know if that's a fair statement to say. I know, we know Andy's, Paez is learning out there. Has had some ugly things happen to him out there. The kid's learning a new position, whatever, in a very tough position, but I felt a lot better in center field. Guys, Taylor's played there. He's played well. Edmonds great out there, but he's so valuable in other places. But we may see, again, this is just speculation on my part, sitting here in Oklahoma in the morning, early in the morning, in the middle of the week. maybe he may start seeing more playing time, especially if he produces a little bit. If he can get something, because he's going to bring you so much defensively. That's why Chris is probably still with the ball club, because he can play everywhere. He's a good team player where you can plug him in a lot of, kind of like Kike. Kike's struggling at the plate, but the dude's been playing first base. He can play outfield, infield, anywhere. Those guys are really
second base last night.
Yes, those guys are invaluable for a ball club. On any level, you got to have those guys that can go anywhere. So, I know he only played 9 games up to this point. So, and I think that's probably about right what he should have been doing. But
yes.
As things above him don't produce, as things above him don't come around, I can see Roberts going, okay, well, I know this guy's going to give me a good outing in center field or wherever he's playing. We just need him to produce more. But that's the case with a bunch of people. It's not his fault. He's on the damn bench, so we don't know. If the guys are on the field, there's several of them that aren't producing. So we may see him get more touches, more playing time.
Yeah. So you're kind of in that darned if you do, darned if you don't, because Teo and Conforto aren't very good on defense. I'm just going to put that point blank.
Yeah.
And those are your corner guys. So if you put a guy in center field like Andy Pages, who hasn't been good at defense, now you're not good at defense in all 3 defensive positions, which is kind of what the Dodgers have run into. Not kind of, it is what they've run into. So you have to so you kind of feel like, well, I've got to put somebody in center field that's a really good defender to offset my corner outfielders. But then on the other side of that, you think, well, we should have a good enough offense to where I can take one guy at one position in center field and not even worry about his offense, because we have enough offense everywhere else. So let's shore up the defensive part of this aspect. But that hasn't happened either. So you felt like, well, our offense has been so bad at the bottom of the lineup, we need somebody that can provide offense. But then the defense has been so bad in the outfield, we need a defender too. And so what it's ended up being is you've needed an offensive guy and a defensive guy for center field. And you know who that is? That's Tommy Edman, which is what we've been saying in the entire offseason, which is why, in my opinion, they needed to go get a shortstop or a second baseman or whatever it may be, and put Tommy Edman in center field and forget about the whole thing.
No, I felt the same. But we talked about this all season. We're not coming up with something just because of the situation we're in now. I've heard you say it many times, and I agree with you. You and Coach Barakoff have talked about it in Austin. The same thing. Tommy Edman, everyday center fielder, is a whole different animal. That's your offensive and defensive guy. As you were talking there, I go back when old Coach Holtz, young, and I had some hair back when I started Legion. You remember those days, and I learned from the great Genio Colasaco. I played for a guy named Rogers Hornsby, by the way. There's a baseball man for you. But anyway, and everybody back in the day, got to be strong in the middle and defensively. Catcher, short, second, center field. Mm-hmm. Nobody gave a damn back in the day. If you go back and look in the 60s, none of those guys were hitters. They were great catchers. Then the Johnny Bench come along. Did hit for high average, hit a bunch of damn home runs. Those things changed with Pudge Rodriguez at catcher and A-Rod's hitting, bombs at the shortstop, and all these things start changing. Cal Ripken, all these middle guys become offensive guys. Back in the day, they didn't give a damn. You could hit 210 if you're a great shortstop. You're in there every day. Get up there, get up there and hack at the ball, bunt, move runners, whatever. So that's old school. I think it's kind of what you just said, but now you need both. The Dodgers in position to need both. Let's don't kid ourselves. Those top 3 guys start lighting it up. Shohei, Mookie and Freddie, they become, they start lighting it up, and Will continues right there. You can probably get by with just a defensive guy in center.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely what you just said. You can probably get by with that, but when you don't have that, when you're kind of scrambling, quote unquote, for the world champions. So we're scrambling a little bit offensively, and we're scrambling a little bit defensively. We're winning because we're damn good. We have the players that do that. You get Landon Knack, get you a good start. You got it. The bullpen has been very good. It's had its moments that it hadn't been, but as a whole, the bullpen's been great. So that has kind of saved our bacon a few times too. So you got everything you need to be the world champions again. It's just kind of we're in scramble mode a little bit. I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one thing that was really nice to see last night. The Dodgers actually had a game over the weekend that they did not walk one single time. They hadn't been drawing a whole lot of walks, and they drew 8 walks last night. And, the Will Smith home run, how it got to a 3 spot? 2 walks in front of the home run. And man, it is just, you can change baseball, make it more analytical. You can do whatever you want with it, but it's always the bloop in front of the blast.
Yep.
Whether it be a walk or just a base hit or whatever, it's always the guys that get on in front of the home run or the guys that don't. There's a saying in baseball, solo home runs don't beat you. So if you're not giving up hits, if you're not walking guys, a solo home run's not a big deal. But if you give up 2 walks in front of it, like the Dodgers got, now it's a 3 spot, now it's a crooked number. Now the Dodgers are in business. So it was good to see the Dodgers draw some more walks.
That goes back. It's like the leadoff walk, but not just the leadoff walk, a walk anytime.
Yeah.
Walks and errors are what gets people beat most of the time anyway. You don't see a whole lot of errors in the big leagues. You know, that's not really a big part of that. You do see them, but it's not like you have a team throw up 4 or 5 errors. That's once every now and then. But, you know, that's on lower levels, you will see that. But, you know, the walks are killers, like you said. That's the big. That's what got you, and that's what you strive for. The Dodgers haven't been getting a lot of those. I know they mentioned last night that they felt like Muncy was starting to get more walks and what have you. He's been very good. Has a very good height during his career, but those are great when you get those. Like I said, a solo homer, a 3-run homer, big difference.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers, how many walks ended up drawing last night? One time they had 7 or 8 walks. Yeah,
8.
And the kid starting out throwing nothing but strikes first inning.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, it's going to be something else. But
Warm down.
yes, but he got wore down. Ended up, he's 11 pitches the first inning, and the third inning is at 80. It was nuts but the Dodgers can do that to people with their offensive lineup when they're clicking a little bit. But the walks, I don't think you hit it right on the head. I think the key to that whole game last night was the walks that the Dodgers picked up.
Yeah. So the bullpen was Jack Dreyer, man. He's been so good. That back foot slider, the slider to lefties, it's the same pitch. It's back foot to righties. It's breaking away from lefties. Got to be impressed with Jack Dreyer. Kirby Yates had some traffic, but the splitter, he actually gave up some contact on the splitter, which was you don't usually see that. And I was very surprised, he gave up some contact on the splitter. And the way that he got out of the inning with the last 2 pitches was with his fastball.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time. It's 93, 94. He throws 2 fastballs in the inner half. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
We're out of the inning. I love to see the double play that Max Muncy started. It still looked like he was fighting. Just watching it in slow motion, it looked like he wasn't a confident fielder.
Yeah.
Even on that double play ball, it's like he was looking the ball all the way into his glove. He's like, okay, good. I caught it. Now I got to throw it. That kind of deal. But I loved Alex Vesia's emotions there. I think that helps a guy like Max Muncy in that situation. And then, the Dodgers bullpen was able to put it away with Luis Garcia. I was glad to see him bounce back because he's had a couple of tough outings. His ERA is now 6.52. So it was the bullpen was a fun part of the game, especially starting with Jack Dreyer.
Yeah, Dreyer is outstanding. I mean, he's going to be a big key for the Dodgers this year. We know what we're getting out of a lot of guys, but that was that. I think he had 5 outs, 4 Ks. I think you don't want to, but he comes out of the pen and doing like that. Like I said, even Yates when he's giving up a little traffic and he's such a veteran. A guy that. I love the last strikeout in the inning, right on the hands of the hitter. Kind of it's a freaking strike, dude. It was a great pitch. It kind of ran back in on him a little bit, but it was in the zone. So
that's why that dude's good right there.
Yes, that's why he's great. What a great pickup by the Dodgers. Like we talked about before. Some of these other, the Dodgers just thought anybody could have got Kirby Yates.
Yeah.
Our guys did it. It's like getting Edmund last year. The pickups the Dodgers have got, just because our front office is out working your ass and better than anybody in baseball. We have the money to do it. Hell, the rest of you can go get some people too if you want. The Padres have done a good job. I'm obviously not a Padre fan. Don't like outside 3 guys or 2 guys now, but they've done a great job of doing some things. They've got a good manager and players. So. But a lot of guys could have got Kirby Yates, and they chose not to. The Dodgers, he's going to be a big key. He can be a lead that bullpen. I love that guy. I mean, like you said, 93, and hell, nobody can hit it. Get some.
Yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun, Coach. It was 2 games in a row that for me, just from a baseball. Take my Dodger fandom out of it. Just my baseball fandom. Just being a baseball fan. These are 2 games in a row that I enjoyed watching the Dodgers play. So final thoughts.
Same thing. I'm like you, Case. I think you even mentioned one time, I don't know if he was talking or if I seen you posted, well, hell, we're playing the worst team in baseball. We ought to win. That isn't how this works. That isn't how this goes.
Yes.
Get out of here, dude. I mean, every series you're facing elite pitching. Like you said, the Rockies ran a couple of guys off the mat. Like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
He'll go over here to Old Break Stadium at OSU and watch some of those college kids throw. There ain't nothing easy about being good here, no matter damn who you're playing. So it's been a great start to a series. The first 2 games, hopefully we can go ahead and wrap it up today and get that out of the way. But no, it's a process. We know how it is. Baseball, let's go. But the Dodgers are doing what they need to do to win right now. Just continue to daily. I don't think they look as tired right now. I mean,
I agree.
And we'd see, wow, hell, it's easy for you to say because they're winning. I don't feel that way. They're scoring runs, as you mentioned it, with some winning baseball plays, moving runners. You'll get our last 2 runs scored on singles, instead of home runs. So you'll do a lot of good things. No doubt Dave Roberts and the crew will figure it out. But it's been fun seeing your face, man, and let's go Dodgers.
All right, Coach, I love you. It's been great seeing you this morning. And so thank you so much for joining.
You bet. Love you too, and go Dodgers.
Hey, don't forget, next up, I actually should have hit this on the beginning of it. We're going to talk about the Tony Gonsolin rehab, Evan Phillips rehab. We're going to talk about Zyhir Hope and all sorts of great stuff down on the farm. So with that, let's not waste more time and let's take a trip down on the farm. Welcome to Dodgers Daily Down on the Farm. We are going to start as we always do in Single A, Rancho Cucamonga, and who you're seeing right here is Mike Sirota. You remember Mike Sirota as a young man the Dodgers got back in the Gavin Lux trade, and he was originally a 3rd-round draft pick from Cincinnati, so very talented, runs very well, good bat-to-ball skills. The guy can just really hit. He uses his hands very well. 316 for Rancho. You might say, why is he with Rancho? Hurt his ankle, and so now they're starting him down at the Single A level. He is doing very well. 316 OPS, 883, 2 multi-hit games in the last 3 games that he's played. So wanted to give you an update on Mike Sirota. Again, the young man that a lot of people thought may come in and not necessarily vie for playing time at the major league level, but be a little bit further along than Rancho. Reason was injury, and he's doing very well. Another young man that's doing very well was the Dodgers' first pick of last summer, Kellen Lindsey. 80 grade speed, made a great play behind the bag last night in the 10th inning. From a shortstop spot, had 2 hits for Rancho, raised his average to 290, OPS 844, and so back-to-back 2-hit games for Kellen Lindsey, who is only 19 years old. 3 multi-hit games in his last 5, and Kellen Lindsey is 7 for his last 19. So there is a good update on the Dodgers' number 1 pick from last summer, Kellen Lindsey. So it's good to see him have success with all those expectations. But the player of the game last night for Rancho was Samuel Munoz. Young man had 3 hits on the night, including the walk-off. There is Mike Sirota scoring again there. Actually, that's Kellen Lindsey there. Samuel Munoz there's his first hit. Here's a second hit right here. You can see that sweet-looking left-handed swing. Munoz has 3 multi-hit games in his last 4 played, and he has at least 1 hit in his last 4 out of his last 5 games. You're getting ready to see his walk-off here in just a second. Right there, walk it off, young man. You're getting ready to see Mike Sirota head around third base, rounding third and heading home right there. That is Mike Sirota. Score it, touch home plate, young man. That is a walk-off win for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes in front of all the students on a Tuesday morning. That was a lot of fun. And this is a young man that got to start yesterday, Sammy Sanchez. He was one of the better pitchers in the Complex League Championship last year. Went to Rancho after the Complex League Championship. Did very well, just 19 years old. His fastball is going to be 91 to 94, but the calling card, lots and lots and lots of strikes. He'll throw like 30 pitches and like 26 of them will be strikes. He's that good of a high volume strike thrower. And yesterday he threw 4 2/3 innings. You know how many walks he had? Sammy Sanchez, none. He had 6 strikeouts, gave up 6 hits and no runs. So great outing for Sammy Sanchez. Showed off his great control. And when you can have a young player like that has as good a control as he has, then you've got something going, because you can really teach them some sequencing that can help them get out professional hitters. And another night to where in the system, as we move up now to the high A level, Zyhir Hope stole the show. And I mean, Zyhir Hope just will not stop hitting. This young man just absolutely is wearing out the baseball for the Great Lakes Loons. He might be the best hitter in all of the minor leagues right now. And keep in mind, it is very cold. You can see the mask they have on there. It is very cold, but he had 2 hits, and he's hitting 400 in that cold weather. I don't think they've had a game yet that's been out of the 30s. And his OPS, so not only is he just hitting, his OPS is 1178. And I wanted to show you his slow motion swing. So let me get to actually right here. See, I want to show you how he's down in the back. So he's going to be, he takes the most direct path to the back of the zone to get his barrel in the hitting zone. But then once he gets his barrel in the hitting zone, let me back this up. Then, and see how he got directly down to the back. Now his bat's in the hitting zone. Now what he's going to do is he's going to come flat, make the path of his barrel long through the zone, and then in front he's going to lift when he's going back up. So what you're going to see is a lot of hard ground balls in the back, a lot of really hard line drives in the middle, and then a lot of home runs in the front. And that is just an absolutely picture perfect swing from Zyhir Hope. That is why the people are so excited about him, and that is also why he's having so much success. So Zyhir Hope, it was great to see him. Logan Wagner had another night to where he had a hit from both sides of the plate. That's the third time in the last week Logan Wagner has had hits from both sides of the plate, so it was exciting to see that. But as we move up to the Double-A level, this is Peter Hubeck right here. Look at that big curveball. He actually spikes that curveball. Him and Jared Karras both spiked the curveball, which gives him that 12-6 look, and then he was riding that fastball up in the zone. He was stealing strikes with his slider, and then he threw a couple of changeups as well. So a 4-pitch mix looked really good for Peter Hubeck. 4 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 8 strikeouts, and 3 walks. So a really nice outing for Peter Hubeck. You can see that good high riding fastball. It's good to see him pitch well for Double-A Tulsa. And then, hey, last night it was great to see Dalton Rushing, if I can get his video up on the board. Great to see Dalton Rushing last night for AAA Oklahoma City get 2 hits. You remember he was out for the 4 games, and he was finally back. No big deal, just trying to pace himself, make sure that everything is in order. So good to see Dalton Rushing back for AAA Oklahoma City, but the night definitely was stolen in Oklahoma City. Like Tuesday, you're going to have Clayton Kershaw pitch. I'm going to go hopefully get some video of that. But the night was stolen by Tony Gonsolin. Hey, Tony Gonsolin, not going to sugarcoat it. The 3rd inning for him was rough. He gave up 4 hits and 3 runs in the 3rd inning, and they were all on his fastball right there. See? And again, you can't make too much out of it because, I mean, he kind of just stuck the bat out there, kind of like with the Evan Phillips deal. But still, it is still 4 hits. It's still 3 runs and 6 hits in 4 innings. Don't want to make too much out of it, but it is what it is. So it's an outing to where you have one. He was good around that 3rd inning, but you can see that splitter there kind of pulling that fastball. He threw a couple of them that were too fat. See that one right there. That's just fat. So still some work to do for Tony Gonsolin. 3 runs on 6 hits and 4 innings for him. And then behind him, Evan Phillips, as we get to his video. Evan Phillips also had a rough outing last night in terms of results. You got to be careful. Look at that. See that? Well, not yet. Watch this first hit coming up. The first hit he gave up, right? Well, you're going to see it here in just a minute. He gave up 3 hits and 2 runs in his 1 inning, but 2 of the hits right there. See, that's off the end of the bat. I mean, that's a routine ground ball to second base. That's why you got to watch the games and see the daily grind to actually know what's happening. So Evan Phillips, yes, he did give up 3 hits, but 2 of them were like 75 mile an hour. The next one you're going to see is actually a jam shot that a guy just fisted in to right field. And so, yes, the 2 runs doesn't look great, but again, you got to have the proper context of how they happen. 2 very unlucky hits. And this is the week for Evan Phillips, Alex was saying on the broadcast. And there you go. There's a slider that he doesn't throw very often. Okay. So you're not going to see that pitch very often that he gave up a base hit on. Then the other 2 hits were just lucky hits. Here comes the other one. Watch this jam sandwich. See this right there? I mean, come on. Are you really worried about that in the first hit he gave up? And then him hanging a slider that he's probably not going to throw major league hitters anyway. So context to it, it's not a big deal for Evan Phillips. He looked good in his outing before that. And then this is his week where he has to meet his benchmarks, not from a results perspective, from a health perspective. Like, can he pitch on back-to-back nights? Can he throw a day game after a night game? Like I think he's probably going to throw today, as today is a day game for AAA Oklahoma City. So Evan Phillips, I think, is closer to Los Angeles than you think. Don't worry about the 3 runs. Again, 2 very unlucky hits, a hanger on a slider. But other than that, Evan Phillips is closer than you think. And so, hey, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Dodgers Daily Down on the Farm. As always, I'm Casey Porter. I want to thank you for tuning in. It's a great day to be a Dodger.